Got Roger's tires on, but I don't have his suspension parts yet.
Nothing like that bubbly.
Roger's tires on.
Man. Nothing like a crisp, ice cold bubbly. Man, that's got some bite.
Yeah,
I like it.
About the oil. That's bubbly right there.
We back. Welcome everybody. Daddy Diesel, the first dude up in here. What is up, brother?
Yes, you better stop yawning, man. We just started, man. We're not even in it yet.
And I don't want to be hearing any of them crickets. We had enough crickets last time.
Did we?
Yeah. The audio was just busted.
I got to hear about
it was
truck.
Busted. Don't you yeah me, boys. Pop out chat. I got this window out. We're getting everything set up. Everybody was excited to come back. I got a lot of great feedback from you guys. You guys had fun last week. We got a bunch of stuff we're going to talk about. I made some notes. One of which is the title, Dealer or Independent? Do you go to the dealer or do you go to the independents? A lot of guys have good dealers, some good techs that they've gotten hooked up with, good customer service, good feedback, good turnaround. And then people have good mom and pop shops. I already got this one dude I've been seeing for the last 20 years. I only go to him and he's around the corner at, a lot of people have those, so it's understandable. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Some new recalls that we are going to have to be dealing with these flipping cameras. We're going to dive into that because I've already been asked like twice today about those, about parts. No DS, I cannot hear you.
And then span off when you talk about the recalls. Span off on the SSSC stuff as well, right after that.
Yes. So what is going on, everybody? Let's check these comments right off the rip. Guys, these goes to the dealer. Grease for Wisconsin. What up, everybody? People who were here last week and people who are new. Again, welcome. Jeff, hello, greetings. I need cameras on my 19. So DS Trucks, if you guys aren't following DS Trucks channel, check him out. You can see his wide variety of trucks. He's got a 2019 gas 6.2, a 2020 6.7 F450 big boy. You guys saw the video that I made with down at the body shop where you had to have that whole frame replaced. That was just a undelightful circumstance. But since then, he's also got a 22.7.3, and all those trucks have cameras. This dude gets 360 cameras on all of his trucks. And two of the trucks, lo and behold, the cameras don't work. And some of the things that I would say, I don't know, a lot of the concerns, maybe half the concerns. No, I'd say a good handful of people come in and complain that the cameras are crappy or they're cloudy. That's the big one. We might as well just dive into it now. That just came out. If you guys saw the news, certain model Super Duties and Lincoln Continentals recall 22S51. It is going to be replacing the camera for this cloudy situation, and I have verified one. I think Cody, right? We don't have parts yet, do we?
Nope, we don't have parts yet. It's more like in my opinion, it's more like an advance notice. I don't think they're gonna have anything till 23.
Oh man.
More like sit and wait. Like we know there's a problem, but it's coming.
I think it's got to do with the way the camera is just positioned. It gets so much UV with the vehicle sitting out in the sun. I mean, it's almost like the design, they should tuck it away a little better.
I think the dealer letter says, not dealer letter, but the customer letter says that they'll send out the letter once they're available. So
what's the deal? Are they replacing all the cameras or just the rear?
Just the rear, as far as I know.
Just the ones that are affected by, or is it all of the ones within a certain date?
17 through 20 model year Super Duty and Continentals.
That's a wide range of Super Duties.
That is a lot.
We're not going to see any Continental.
Well, I got a complaint with the camera system. One of my complaints On all of them. One of my complaints is the price of the camera. So there's definitely that issue how the camera, as it just ages, the picture quality degrades. But if you want to buy the camera, the last time I bought a camera, it was like $350 or something, maybe $400 for a camera.
Yep.
But my complaints is like, bro, this whole thing right here, this is 4K, it's a camera, it's all these different things. It's not even as much as just that one sensor. So I don't see where it's coming from.
It's controlled. It's controlled by the market, supply, demand, and it's not even. And you're 100% right, because I spoke about that before. Whenever one of the good scenarios is exactly what Aaron brought up before, when he talked about what was that, the old 7.3, and even the senior master for the diesel department that left and went to another dealership. He brought up the same thing that Aaron brought up, and he said back in the day, whenever we used to have problems with those crank sensors on the 7.3s, you know how they had the black one and then there's a gray one?
Mm-hmm.
He said
Cam sensor.
Or cam sensor. It used to be a customer could come in, they'd spend $250 on whatever this was. But whenever this became a recall or a TSB or something like that, that had to be footed on the manufacturer's side, did you see how the price dropped down?
Well, yeah, now they're like $20 now.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get a
And
cam
now
sensor.
So once it's a recall, can that lower the price of the cameras, or
for the
Probably
for the
not.
manufacturer, not to the customer.
right?
Yeah, I
so
remember.
Because it's probably a $10 little camera.
it's literally probably $30-$40 to make that camera, but because nobody else was producing that model and it's only made by a specific whatever, blah 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 blah, and because of the market and inflation and different state laws, that camera is probably a $30-$40 sensor that the manufacturer, when it's under warranty being replaced, probably only spending $70 or $80 on it, but to the customer it's like 3, 4, 5 times the amount.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'm looking at this damage report or build sheet from Bill Brown, and I'm looking at all the parts they replaced, and you come across some parts and it's like $800 for the grill. $800 for the grill is a little piece of plastic. Like, in some areas, Ford really knows how to get you.
Well, let's back up a little bit here. It's not Ford knowing how to get you. It's the dealer that controls the price based on whatever their matrix is for the pricing spectrum that they're in. I was at a dealer that whenever you would pull up a Ford part, it could be an alternator that it said would cost $122. List $174. Price with the matrix, $390.
I could tell you right now. So a retail price on an F-150 rear camera for a 21 retail is $284. Dealer cost is $170.
Yeah. And then to the
And that's-
customer,
That's
So the
cheaper
price-
than what I paid.
depending on the price matrix, that would be $400 or $500.
Okay.
Good customers get 10 over cost or 15 over cost, like
Yeah.
technicians get.
Yep.
But the
Well,
normal person, it'll be 100 times over.
It's interesting because I can expect to pay, $700 for an alternator or something like that. But for a grill, just that little
Yeah.
piece of plastic, man,
Or look
that's
up- Yeah, this is something shocking right here, Cody. While you're in there, look up a 21 Bronco Sport RDU quart of fluid. Just 1 quart of RDU fluid for a Bronco Sport. It is absolutely ridiculous, the price of 1 quart of fluid for that thing. And when I told people that, other technicians, they were like, "Are you freaking kidding me? How is this even possible?"
What'd you say that year was, Rich?
Like a 21 Bronco Sport with a rear RDU, because they had that chattering and slow parking lot maneuvers, and the TSB
Yeah.
said to service the RDU, drain the fluid and put fresh fluid in.
Right.
The cost to the dealer, or the cost for warranty to follow that TSB, was like $88 for the quart through our dealership. The cost to the customer was almost $200, but our dealership said we'll never do that to a customer that comes in here for something like that. A customer comes in here, they're going to get it at like $92, $93 or whatever. We're not going to do that.
For
type of-
a quarter of this stuff's like $100. I mean, even at a deal, that's $100.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it?
It's a special gear fluid that goes in these clutch electronic actuated type engagement rear drive units that replace like what your differential would be. It's this little shit box mechanism or whatever it is, it applies clutches and shit like that. And that's how it drives the rear wheels for 4-wheel drive.
Oh, okay.
And
I
it only
mean, only-
takes, the sad thing is, it takes like what is it, like a 0.7 quarts of fluid. You're not
Yeah,
even
so-
running enough fluid in the thing to actually keep it cool all the time. Or
Does it got to be
lubricate it
changed? Does it got to be changed often?
Oh, they
It's
tell-
made of gold.
They tell you that it
1.3
doesn't have to, but really that fluid should be changed every 15 to 20,000 miles. There's not enough in that to do anything for you.
It's just getting splashed.
That's all it is.
Bird bath.
That's all it's doing. And you sit there and bake this stuff all the time and work this stuff all the time. And you don't even have ample enough fluid back there to actually properly lubricate this thing. There's no filtration. There's no nothing. It's splash lubricated or whatever the hell it is. I think it's like that, like the PTUs that only have half a quart to 3/4 quart fluid or something. And they're done by 30,000 miles because
This is the differential in the rear.
yeah.
So how many quarts does a normal differential usually carry?
3, 3.5, 4, depending on the size.
4.
So they got it down to 1, but it's special fluid
Not
now.
even one. Not even one.
0.7.
0.78 is what I got
Yeah.
over here.
But you ain't never going to
That's
get
too
everything
low.
completely out of there. So you're not even really, when you change it, you're not, even though there is a drain plug, you're probably putting in 0.55, 0.6 or something because there's residual and stuff in there. And it's across the board, dude. I'm so tired of it, man. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm so tired of like the lies on the maintenance and how expensive the fluid and stuff is, and act like this damn thing's made of gold. And you tell people that you can change it every 60,000 miles or 100,000 miles or 150,000 miles. In all
No
reality,
way. No
this
way.
needs to be serviced by every 15 to 20,000 miles. There's nothing in here to keep this thing lubricated properly.
So according to ECAT, retail is $47.99.
Yeah, warranty price is almost double that.
Dealer cost is $35.99.
Right, and warranty ends up paying like 80.
Yeah, that's
0.8 of a quart.
that kind of is puzzling at times. I will tell you that.
I mean, who in the hell would pay $100 for a quart of RDU fluid? Amsoil or somebody's got to come out with something and be like, look, here's the replacement for that, and it's like $30 for a quart.
In a bag.
And it's going to be better than what you're being provided.
I'm looking it up right now. Funny you say that.
DS, one of the channel commenters here says, how's that 7.3 Godzilla? I'm thinking about one for my next truck. You're being towing, actually the trailer, that's DS's background is what he's towing with it. So he's working.
It's interesting. One thing I've noticed is no fan clutch. I haven't heard the fan clutch turn on once. It's spinning, but compared to even my 6.7, as soon as I stop in the 6.7, if it's hot outside and I get ready to go, it sounds like a freaking jet. It's just howling. With the 7.3, never even turned on. I don't know if it's not running. The temperature's never been hot, or it's always been in the middle. I don't know. What do you think?
Is one of them electronic and one of them is just a regular?
It's electronic,
Clutch?
but it's what do you call that, Ford Boss, where it's electronic, but it's still on the front of the motor?
I didn't hear what was going on. I had to turn the AC on.
It's
What?
like a Viscous electronic clutch. It has kind of both.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
It's so quiet, even compared to my 6.2. The 6.2, it's a little noisy.
It's probably electronic, and they probably just have it programmed to not just come on full bore and make a bunch of noise. I mean, they'll correct me if I'm wrong, Cody. If you get a bunch of complaints on something like that, they can they can issue a program that'll kind of tune it back a little bit, and so you don't get that jet engine noise at a.
Like the 6 liters used to do
Yeah,
when they went bad.
I mean, mine does it, and I love it. I'm like, yes, I have a turbine power now. I mean, I like it when mine goes.
I can feel on the diesel. I can feel it. Like it kicks on hard, like 100%.
But you
And
can
if
expect
I turn
people can complain about that. I mean, that would be legit. So maybe they just engineer that out of it.
it could be my AC. When I turn the AC off, it don't do it.
Yeah,
It could
because
be-
they're going to run it more when you have the AC on to
But
blow
with the
air.
but with the 7.3, the AC works. It's ice cold, and it still ain't doing it. So that's the one thing I've noticed with the 7.3. I don't know if
Well,
it's
I can
different.
assure you, if there was something electrically failing with a sensor or something not checking in, that fan didn't match the fan speed signal that the PCM requested, you'd have to check engine light. Don't trust me, bro. I know.
It would let you know immediately.
Aaron's got videos on that for sure. I've seen them.
No, it's definitely working. I did notice. What refrigerant are they running now? The 7.3 said R134A on the engine. It said
Same.
that.
The Super Duties
Is-
still run R134. Some, I mean, not some. All these new F-150s are 1234YF. So,
I'm gonna assume it's
When-
probably gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4 YF of the new ones.
which brings up another way to talk about the deal versus independent. Are all these independent dealers or shops, are they gonna have that 1, 2, 3, 4 YF? Some may not get new vehicles in because they're going to the dealer, but I mean, I guess I don't know what other vehicles besides.
We get some guys locally that are higher end that do have more money put into their independent shops that do have the $10,000-$12,000 machine.
Yeah.
They have bought it.
We've got it. Yeah.
They
you?
won't send it to us, but some of the smaller shops, some of the body shops and stuff like that, some of the shops that haven't caught up, a lot of them, they'll send it all to the dealer and say, look, everything's been repaired. Just evacuate and recharge for us.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I could see that. Sublet it out. I could see that. I could see
it
that.
went from like 11, it was at $10 an ounce to $11 an ounce. So now I think it's like what, $13 or $14 an ounce now. And it just keeps creeping up.
Hey, Rich, to answer your question for the rear unit on the AMSOIL doesn't have it on there yet. They do have it for the transfer case, though, the PTU.
Mm-hmm. A lot of guys have switched to that.
Yeah, the PTU is 7590, but it doesn't have anything for the rear yet.
They will, I'm sure.
Oh, they will. It says we're working on it now.
Well, as I suspected, it was a Viscous electronic clutch.
Yeah.
On that.
Read it off. It's
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now.
Cody.
So basically, it's electronically actuated viscous clutch containing 3 elements. You got a working chamber, reservoir chamber, and a cooling fan actuator, and VSS, fan speed.
Yeah.
Basically, the PCM pulse widths it and changes speed, and it'll be monitored through the fan speed PID, which Aaron has shown many times.
That's
Yeah.
something that we can see what actual and what desired meaning PCM, what PCM wants. If they match, then everything's going to be good. But for what we see, and sometimes with the Super Duties, are like the one that I had, the AC pressure was at 400 psi. It was calling for this fan to be on, and it was roaring. So using the scan tool not only can help diag that kind of stuff, but most people don't think, looking at the cooling fan,
So
that we'll
when
be able
that-
to have what?
when that was happening, how much roaring? Like, was it all the time the fan was roaring?
The faster the RPM of the engine was, the louder the fan was. So if I was driving, the fan was getting up to 3,000, 3,100 RPM.
It was matching RPM.
Yeah, it was loud.
Wow. So it wasn't turning off even once it got going.
Mm-mm.
Some of them will do that for pressure protection in the AC system, but also some of them will fault to that as well. And I think, didn't you have one, Aaron, where you had one that was doing it, and then you kind of went into the data logger and you were monitoring everything, but there was no need really at the time to call for it, and it was matching RPM, and it was a clutch system failure in that fan.
There must have just something been broken down. Like Cody was saying, the viscous part, it's almost like a mini torque converter inside, where it's slinging, you know, that fluid, and you know, something, that clutch or something came apart, or a spring or whatever that uses the little components in there. I mean, I've never taken one apart, but.
Well, let me ask you this: in your 6.7, when you have the air on and stuff and it's hot outside, does your fan kick on when you stop, and then you go and take off, and it's?
I'll hear it like I'll hear it cycle on, and then come off. Like I don't hear it.
Yeah.
You know, on full blast. I mean, I guess if I was sitting there, you know, just idling, and then went to go take off, maybe.
It's going to increase speed a little bit because that's normal. You don't have airflow across the condenser and stuff like that.
That's
so
where I'm at. I'm probably normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guys are wondering how my AC's been since I flushed my compressor or evaporator out. I had a clog in my evaporator, and I back flushed it, and it actually worked. I mean, yeah, I went from about 400 pounds on the high side, and I dropped it down. I think I saw about 280, something like that. I forget exactly, but it came down into normal, high, little high, but I got some better temps out of it, but it's not going to last for long. And folks are wondering, and I know you're going to ask me next, if the orifice tube was clogged, and no, it wasn't, because I put a new one in about a month ago.
We just had I hate to admit it, but a technician that was not very versed in the Panther platform vehicles, and he replaced the compressor and did not know that it was a FOT, and it ended up having quite a bit of issues with cooling. And when it came back in, he had missed the low side Schrader valve and didn't realize the FOT is up in the line going through the firewall. You can see the indentation where it goes from fat to small, and it's clearer than an FOT would be right there. And you disconnect that spring and reach in there with a set of needle nose pliers, because it doesn't have the latching part where you can grab on. You can grab it with needle nose pliers and just pull it out. And it was completely plugged. And I went back and, you know, obviously Grace at the dealership, taking care of it for the customer, put a new valves, high and low in it, and replaced the FOT, cleaned out the system and stuff for him, and then recharged it. A lot of guys miss that when they're looking at AC.
For boss, what is FOT?
A fixed orifice tube.
Oh, okay.
It's the old outdated form of a thermal expansion valve. Basically, it's a flood type filtering screen that was never really efficient. I mean, it works, but they were never really considered efficient metering devices. They just mainly filtered more than anything, but you could
Clog up a lot.
They clogged up a lot, and you could go to different colored fixed orifice tubes that would allow more or less, but it was still more of a restriction than a control.
So is that where the liquid makes its change to like a gas where it cools?
Change the state.
Change the state.
Well, after it would. Like if you're going into the evaporator, it's latent heat of evaporation, and then it changes to latent heat of condensation. So as it goes into the evaporator and air is drawn across it, it will change from a liquid form into a gas. So as it's leaving the evaporator, getting into the dryer side or the going into the compressor side, it gets compressed as a gas and then pushed right back through the condenser. So then it condenses it with cold air coming across the condenser back into a liquid. So it's latent heat of condensation and then latent heat of evaporation. Those are the two changes of state in the AC system.
TXV.
Yeah.
TXV Illuma duty. That's the same. The TXV slash evap core slash evap temp sensor, all one shebang.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have to pull the flipping dash. In actuality, it wasn't that bad. It would have been worse if it had the center console. It did not. You guys saw it was just kind of a work truck, a dirty work truck, I might add. But nonetheless, the whole case behind the dash had to come out. And I mean, once you got it out of the way, it wasn't too bad. I did not expect, though, how many little itty bitty screws were holding that case together. I mean, every time I turn around, there was one down in the crevice in the
Another
corner.
one.
I'm like, oh, that's it. Go to pull it apart. I'm like, there's another one? Come on, get out of it. And sure as shit, there's one underneath the.
Another
So-
So
one.
wait, you guys kind of talked about like cleaning the system. I think Rain Man talked about like flushing his.
Yeah.
What do you mean like cleaning the like inside of the lines and all the entire system? How do you do it?
I took a tank it's a pressurized tank. You hook shop air to it. It's got a little nozzle on it. It's hand actuated. And you just run this, you put a solvent in the little tank. And I had to disconnect the lines to the evaporator. And I just stuck the little sprayer into one of the tubes and just blew in shop air with the solvent until enough pressure built up and it actually pushed part of the blockage out and, shot out everywhere. And then I just
Do you actually see this? Like,
yeah,
you see
well, I saw it because it like shot out violently in my face. It was ridiculous. But I didn't expect it to. I didn't really expect it to dislodge, and I was like, yeah, this might work. It might not. And I'm sitting there with GoPro recording it, and all of a sudden, I mean, everywhere, it blew right out. I was surprised that it happened, and I'm like, all right, well, let's see if it works. So I threw it back together and recharged it. And
so if an AC system has a leak, let's say it loses pressure, or whatever. Do you have to clean it, or do you just pull a vacuum on it and everything and recharge it, or you just replace the compressor?
Leak.
There's a couple different ways to do it. You can identify a leak. If it's not a catastrophic failure, there's not always a reason to flush the system out. Some guys will do it every single time, but that's not always the case. If you have like a rock or you hit something on the ground, it came up and hit the condenser, or it might be a leak at a fitting that you can't see, or a junction where it snaps together. Some people will use vacuum. Vacuum's not a very reliable source, honestly, because sometimes you'll pull the leak closed and it'll stay under a vacuum. A lot of shops, the shops that like to put more money and stuff into their diagnostic components will have like a big nitrogen tank, and they'll have a regulator on that tank, and they can regulate it up to 300, 400, 500 PSI, whatever they do. I typically try not to go over 300 because at 300 PSI, you should be able to find a leak somewhere in the system. So
absolutely,
pressure testing, to me, I found more leaks pressure testing with nitrogen because it doesn't contaminate the system and it doesn't introduce moisture into it, versus evacuation and monitoring vacuum leaks. I've had more failures with vacuum leaks not finding the problem than the much higher success of using nitrogen pressure to actually find it.
So when you do the nitrogen pressure, is there a dye in there? And then like, how do you find the leak?
No,
Sniffer.
You can
sniffer,
use a sniffer.
okay.
And a lot of times you don't even have to use a sniffer. At 300 PSI of nitrogen going through your AC system, you're going to find the leak.
Wow.
That's
literally
the telltale sign is going to be green, obviously, but
yeah.
Lately, we've been having a lot of transits for some reason coming in where the evaporator's leaking, and it's taking a while to run the system with dye in it to figure out if it's actually going to drip out of the evaporator drain. And then eventually after, an hour or 2 hours of running this thing or giving it to the customer with dye and saying, drive this for a while and bring it back to us so we can identify it. We've had to pull like 4 or 5 dashes in the last 3 weeks on transits to replace evaporators because now we've seen this huge uptick in evaporators leaking in transits.
Wow.
Do the same thing I do where you look at the dye on the ground in the water, in the evaporator core.
That, or if it's like so slow that it's barely coming out or whatever, after running it for a while, you can start the vehicle and put it up on the rack and just walk away and leave it up there. I don't like idling vehicles, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And you'll come back like, every 15 minutes, every half hour, take a peek up there at that drain. And then an hour and a half, 2 hours later, that thing's sitting there running. You look up there and like, oh, there it is. There's the green ghost coming out of there.
I'm definitely learning a lot on this one.
Diag for AC. Now, if you're going to the dealer, excuse me, or if you're an independent, is there a certain Diag rate that you're going to get coming in for, let's say, a front end concern, or you have category check engine light, vehicle running rough concern? or heavy engine mechanical problem. A lot of times when you have diesels come in and you got a drive problem or the vehicle's in limp mode, we get a couple hours checkout from the customer, because sometimes when we're doing a lot of this diag, going with the computer, trying to get the vehicle out of derate, dosing test, whatever, regen, whatever we have to do within a lot of time. I mean, sometimes it takes, a few hours at times to do things. And the question that I have is Ford boss, Ray, Anthony, in our shops, do you guys find that when you take on a vehicle or your service advisor gives you a job, is there a difference in diag time versus what we're telling the customer? Like, are we requesting a couple hours checkout right off the rip, or are we getting the normal hour checkout? Is there a certain criteria that a customer's concerns got to meet to defer? You know what I mean?
I get 1 hour to start digging into it, and if I need more time, then I'll get with my advisor, and then that advisor will get with the customer. Hey, look, he needs another hour and a half, to figure out what's going on. And if the customer agrees to it, then I'll get another hour and a half. If they don't agree to it, then I basically stop where I'm at and then kind of go from there. Just talk to the customer and see what's going on. But other than that, I get an hour.
Yeah, we're about the same. We start off at an hour. We do kind of AC preliminary checks for half hour. Battery stuff is like, 2/10. Customer thinks their battery's bad, they'll write up a battery and charging system test. That's 2/10. But usually, anywhere between there and an hour usually. And then, like Anthony was saying, if we get into something where I've used up my hour and I've got some results, but I'm not done yet, then I go back to the well for another hour or so. And usually by using up 1 hour, I got enough to say, hey, I probably need 1.5, 2 more hours tops. If I find it 20 minutes, I'll bill you 20 minutes.
How much is an hour?
$150.
165.
185.
I
Say
think
200.
I think we're at one, either like Aaron said, we're either at 165 or 175 now. I think recently it went up a little bit because of everything else going up.
Which is to be expected. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like that's not going to happen.
So can we add to that though, Aaron?
Absolutely.
So Anthony comes in, he's on vacation. I ain't working on this Ranger right now, man. Let Aaron look at it right now. I ain't got time for this crap. I'm working with I'm out with my family. Drops it off and he says, man, I got this clicking sound going on inside the dash on this thing. My auxiliary port for the cigarette lighter quit working, and I see some kind of leak in the rear of the truck, and he is just outside of warranty. There's no more warranty. He's just outside of warranty. Is it an hour total, or is it an hour per concern?
How many lines are on the RO?
Right. That's where I'm getting at. 1, 2, 3 lines, 4 lines. Is it an hour per? Or are we just saying we're going to look at it in an hour? Because this is where I get mad at my dealership. My boss watches your channel, and the owners of my company and stuff watch this. And this is an ongoing battle between what is right for the customer, what is right for you as a business, and what is right for the tech that's doing the work. Now, this is where I get hung up. If it's going to take me an hour to figure out why this port stopped working for the charging system or whatever, that's a pretty easy system overall. It's going from the socket out to the fuse box, and then it has to get supplied by something in the fuse box. So typically 15, 20 minutes, I've got that already figured out.
Yep.
Or visualizing, seeing where this leak is coming from, typically 10, 15, 20 minutes, I've got that figured out. So those concerns, I can see them saying, hey, I think Rich or Aaron is good enough where he's going to probably be able to look at these minor concerns within an hour. And he's probably going to get this figured out pretty quick because it's a pretty simple system. Or maybe your service writer doesn't know you that well. Maybe he doesn't take that into consideration and says, it's an hour for the charge port, it's an hour for the leak, and it's an hour for the clicking sound in the dash.
Well, that's when it's up to us to tell the advisor, like, hey, look, I've already figured it out. Like, You know, let's just charge them an hour because I've already figured it out in 45 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right. So there's,
Normally, like,
but there's secured checkout time at, see, I understand what you're saying. But there's a lot of times where there's supposed to be a certain amount of time secured before that vehicle even comes to you to protect you and the dealership for the time that the tech is spent working on that vehicle. And then you can adjust from there because you're the guy that you're the professional working on it, saying, look, let's not charge the guy the full hour for this because I already have this figured out in 15 minutes. I've already got the leak identified. We don't need to charge him for that or whatever. It's not a big deal. Let's just go ahead and get the parts quoted out and then we'll throw labor and stuff. That's up to you at that point. But when that vehicle comes to you from the front end of the business, what do we expect as technicians? Let's just say these concerns were much more severe and there's 3 different severe concerns that are going to take some time. Do we want 1 hour per line? Or are we going to just let the service advisor say, hey, this is, Aaron said $165 for the labor rate. And then with their initials underneath it, we've got 1 hour secured checkout time. So you got 1 hour off the bat, but you've got 3 concerns to look at. That's not okay with me.
no, I say it should be 3 hours because it's 3 different concerns. You know,
Right.
I agree.
And I will adjust that off of there. You let the customer know up front, worst case scenario, there's 3 concerns right here. You got 3 hours of diag into these 3 different concerns. And the tech is going to be more than fair when he looks at it. If he sees something right
You
away.
say 3 concerns. I don't want to say it was running rough, stalling, and backfiring. I'm saying there's a check engine light on, the rear window doesn't go down, and I got an axle line on diesel.
Right.
That's 3
Yeah.
concerns.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the
Just to make sure
advisors-
we're all on the same.
But
is what-
the advisors, they're going to go, how can I charge, $450, $500 in diag fees? That's insane. And they need to understand that the customer is the person that let 3 things break. They all didn't break at the same time and on the same
Very
day. But the
good.
window fell out of the track one day, and the
I'll just
differential's
wait
been
until
whining for 2 years.
I'll just wait until I got 5 things and then I'll take it in.
Yeah, exactly. So
Well,
Dude, that's literally how we think though, you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like, dude, I'm not going in with 1 thing. I'm going in with 5
Well, just
Because
like
it's
I was
gonna-
talking to,
because it's going in.
Well,
was
just
talking
don't
to
be
Aaron.
shocked if they charge you for 3 or 4 things. Because
okay.
I was talking to Aaron the other day and I was like, look, dude, this guy came in and he's been dealing with this airbag light coming on. The tall tale here is I can look at your vehicle's connected data. Don't tell me that light just came on the other day and you're just bringing it in. I can look at the last 60 days of your history and see it was on the 17th, it was on the 25th, it was on the 30th, it was on the 2nd of the next month, it was on the 16th, and you've been letting it go and letting it go and letting it get worse. And then Ford's going to look at that too and say, when they look at this, if they choose to audit this particular ticket to see what was going on and be like, wait a second, how long was this guy driving with this lean code present and then smoked this catalytic converter in this thing? And now all of a sudden we're on the hook for warranty repair. How come you didn't ask more questions? You have connected vehicle data.
yeah,
No,
the
no,
days of,
let's-
it just came on are over.
How do you guys feel about this? Now, this customer might be watching and I don't think he'll care. But where is it? Where is it? Well, I thought I had it. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I get into this 2020 Super Duty. And what is your first instinct, Anthony, Rain Man, and Ford Boss, CP, when you guys get into a truck and there is a full page sitting on the steering wheel of the story the customer is telling you? How do you feel about that?
Roger just did that for me. I went to go
Did
get
he
in
really?
I went to go get in his truck and he had a couple Bang energy drinks for me saying, hey, thank you, buddy. I was, he's hooking me up, taking care of his tech. And then I get in there and I seen there was an envelope and I opened it up and there was the full, just like you said, just nicely, very articulate in what he was experiencing and stuff like that. And I was like, dude,
He says thank you, by the way, as you're talking.
this is freaking awesome,
that.
man. This is like, I got the whole thing in front of me, so I don't have to worry about getting stuff dropped from the service writer to me. I was tickled pink when I seen that. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool, man. I can look through this here as I'm going through it and make sure I've addressed every single one of the issues that he was experiencing while I'm reading this, you know, and I just thought it was awesome.
It's like when a customer comes in and has a tire concern with wheel locks and they have the wheel lock key in the cup holder. It's great because you got all the information.
Excellent.
Bravo.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Not very often does that happen. But when it does,
Yeah,
Thank you.
I love that. I love when
thank you.
I don't have to go sifting through your tampons and your dip cans and everything else to find it.
You know, this guy's not fucking around. He came in here for a reason. Hey, we like those kinds of customers.
Yep.
I'll look over the fact that your thing's all blew out and clapped out, but you got them wheel locks on it and you let the key from it. Thank you.
Do you guys think people realize that there's a chance we may go through the nether regions of your car? You know, I might have to dig through your center console or be inside of your glove box or see what's in the trunk because I need a wheel lock key. Like, do you think they realize that? I think, and they just don't care. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. You find things in people's cars.
Well, I had to break it. I talked about this, and I briefly showed the car that I was working on, and I had to pull the dash on it to do an airbag, just short. And the back seat was trashed. Cody, Aaron, you guys know, Anthony, you guys know that when you do these airbag recalls on these Fusions and stuff like that, the seat's got to go forward. You got to get kind of down in the back seat. You got to pull the bolts out of the back of the console. You got to slide the console out of the way and stuff. And there was just crap, garbage, shoes, socks, McDonald's. It's just everywhere inside this thing. And I went to my service advisor, and I was like, what the hell did you just give me? Did you not inform this lady that I was going to be in the back of this car and that I was going to have to get down in here and work and stuff like that? And he was like, no. Why did you not tell her that? And now I have to move all this stuff to get the safety recall done. So me being the nice person I am, I shut my mouth, moved everything to the back seat, vacuumed the whole car out, cleaned the whole car, detailed the back seats with my DeWalt vacuum, just nice, and just did everything that I was going to do. And then when I was done, I put everything kind of back the way I had it. Not exactly. I did let her know, ma'am, I don't know if the service advisor told you or not, but I'm assuming not. I did have to get in the floor of this car in the back. There was stuff all over the place. I moved it. It's not going to be perfect back. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. This is not even my car. It's my husband's car. And he's such a pig. And I was like, so the service advisor never said anything to you? And she was like, no, if I would have known that you would have been back there, I would have cleaned all that stuff up and had it nice and tidy for you. If they know the work that we're going to do before we get there, a lot of times they'll clean all that stuff up, and nobody even tells them. Nobody even knows what we're going to. The service advisors, half the time, they're oblivious to what we're going to do. But you would think with the amount of times that they've seen this type of repair, hey, I just got to let you know the tech's probably going to be down in the center console looking for a key slot because he's got to program keys and stuff like that. So if you have anything sharp in there, anything that you don't want to be seen, any kind of paraphernalia or anything, you're going to want to get that stuff out of there. Get it all out of there because he's going to be in there.
My old lady's dad was a service writer for GM, for a GM dealer. And I took my Chevy, I had a Sierra 2500. I took it in to see him to get the oil for the front differential and the transfer case, the rear diff, all three changed. And they all get changed, and I go and pick it up, and he's talking. He's like, yeah, we took off the covers and we took off the diff cover and all that. He goes, I took the diff cover off the front. We sealed it up real nice. And I'm listening. He had me all, I was like all excited. And I'm thinking, I didn't know there was a diff cover in the front. It's all independent front suspension. It's got you just got a drain plug. And I'm like, I just was like, all right. Okay, I guess you took the cover off the front. There ain't no cover on the front.
Oh, really?
Back on.
Yeah, but he's got that service advisor talk going. So he's just,
So he's trying to talk it up.
yeah, he's talking it up.
Yeah, he doesn't even know what happened. He's just
No,
trying to feel good about. Yeah, he
it's
doesn't
like
know.
that
He doesn't know
oil was
what happened.
filthy, man. The oil was filthy, and we sealed it up real nice with silicone. I'm just like,
Womp, womp,
okay.
womp.
The
I know
last
you
season
meant-
I did airbag, like Rich was talking about, you got to clean your car out. This thing had cigarette butts in it. It had shoes, dirty underwear, face
Ooh.
mask. There was food bags in there. It smelled like puke and mothballs. And I had to get into this thing. And I did a video on it, and it was bad, dude. And it was the passenger airbag that I had to do because I'd already done the driver. So the passenger, you got to pull the dash for it.
Yeah.
And you got to crawl around. Like I wore long sleeves that day because I didn't want to crawl around in that. Like it was just disgusting. Like, and people were asking me, "Can you refuse that?"
Yeah,
To a point. To a point, yeah.
yeah, you can, but
Go clean your car and bring it back.
I guess be fortunate we're not working on garbage trucks and
Dude, I
having to
worked on
deal with
garbage trucks.
maggots and
I worked on a
dead
garbage truck
animals.
once.
And,
They
what?
actually clean them before they bring them.
Mm-mm.
What I can't stand is when the police leave their guns in their car and we need to move the rack or something in the back.
yeah,
I did that working on city cars. If they had the gun in the police car, we had to actually call them and come take it out. Otherwise, we couldn't touch it.
we ain't touching it.
you remember
Dirty
when
underwear.
you guys remember when all the riots and stuff were going on all over the place?
Yeah.
When the cops were out all the time, like 24/7, guys were going from like 10, 12-hour shifts to like 16 to 24-hour shifts. They were pulling doubles and all this other crazy stuff. Well, they would have to bring the vehicles. They would take their weapons out. But one time I had to get into one of them and I lifted the rear hatch to do that. What was that, Cody, that HVAC recall where you got to put the new
Okay.
drains and reprogram the HVAC module. When I lifted up that rear hatch, I'm looking inside the back of this thing and I'm like, ooh, Call of Duty, Call of Duty. They had like the riot shields back there and the batons and the ballistic helmets and everything. And I was like, oh, I want to run around with this thing real quick and be like, ah, sucker.
You reminded me
The
that
Walking Dead stuff.
all good stuff. Rich, you reminded me of like before the riots, our cop cars used to have the sheriff's department would leave their guns in there. It was no big deal. They were locked up, trigger locked.
Yeah.
And I remember during all the riots, our cops, they got new orders. They had to keep all their firearms with them at all times because folks were trying to go around and break into the cop cars, and they figured out how to disable some of the locking mechanisms, and they were trying to steal their shotguns and stuff and their ARs.
Yep. I remember that.
Yeah.
They're not good.
Yeah, you got to have a pair on you to try to break into a cop car and steal their rifle.
Yeah.
What do you
That
guys
cop's not far. He's around the corner at best.
What do you guys think about releasing a vehicle back to the customer without doing an idle trim reset when the battery has been disconnected? Well,
Is that to us? Is that,
it's just a question.
I mean, is that
Um,
to, I don't know what that is to us because I've never had to do that. I mean, unless I'm
Never had to do that.
Yeah, there's
mean,
not
we-
really like a
We have to do what, a neutral profile reset or like a
BMS.
misfire reset.
Yeah, for like,
Well,
but that's
The
for
only
like
thing-
engine related or performance
Yeah.
concern.
Yeah, the only
Yeah,
thing
that's
we
just
really
a
have to
misfire
do
for
is doing the BMS reset. And actually, Ford Boss, I'm sure you guys know the Ford Boss channel. He's got a great video, and I didn't even know. I was blown away. Like, wait, you can do? Wait, what?
One of the engineers messaged me and was like, hey
I
man,
couldn't believe it.
where'd you get this information? And I was like, I know
can't
people
tell you.
I know people just like you do, dude. And then somebody messaged me the other day and he was like, I got an older Explorer and I don't have that battery light that stays on like some of the newer vehicles do. He said, for some reason in my Explorer, I said, you know what you do is on yours where you don't have that battery light that stays on after you key on, flash the brights 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then tap the brake right after it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then let go and wait about 10 seconds or so. and you'll see the check engine light will flash. And it does the same thing, except it uses the check engine light and not the battery monitor light, or not the battery light. It does the same thing on, it means the same thing, except they're using the engine picture as the battery flashing 3 times. That's how you reset the BMS. And I've tried it in every single Ford that I've come across over the last, like, I don't know, 6 months or so. And it's worked in every single one of them with a battery monitoring system.
I'm interested to do that myself. I thought it was cool. Even that and the TPMS, to get into TPMS training, do the key, 1, 2, 3, hit the brake, 1, 2, 3, hit the brake, or take your hazard. We talked about in the live stream before, take the hazard and hit it 6 times. And that will also go into tire training mode, even if you had it on the steering column shroud as well.
And one does one thing versus the other. Like the other day, one of the guys in the shop put new TPMS sensors in and tried the hazards. And it did not put it into training mode to where it would relearn the new TPMS sensors. Now I had to go over there and show him key cycle 3 times. It's 1, 2, 3, hit the brake, 1, 2, 3, hit the brake, and then it beeped again. And then he was able to train the new IDs for the new sensors. The hazards
work if you do a rotation.
Yeah, if you're doing a rotate and all the sensors are trained, it will pick up the new position and update the tire pressure, but it will not train a brand new TPMS sensor that I've experienced, because I just had to go fix this for somebody else.
TPMS.
Yeah, I was reading a comment, and Matt up there a little bit. He said something about how do you clear a check engine light when there are no more codes to clear. And I'm wondering, are you plugging into it with a scan tool, like a little code reader, and you don't see any codes, but your light is still on? Like,
Or are you plugging it in and getting a permanent code?
Well, what I'm wondering is if he's got a scan tool that can't see, like the TCM request the mill being turned on. So you'll plug in and you don't have any DTCs, but the TCM has got a P700 stored, but his scanner's not reading it. That's what I was wondering.
There's also another scenario when you're done, Ray, that we'll talk about real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are some Ford vehicles that will set continuous memory codes, but there's no code. There's no not a continuous memory code. It'll be like a data code or data file maxed out or something to that extent. When you clear everything and you're done with your scan tool and you go pull it off, you turn the key on and the check engine light is still on, but there's no DTC stored. What you got to do is you have to make sure that the key's off, the scan tool is disconnected, and leave that key off for about 30 seconds. And then turn the key back on. Give the computer about 30 seconds of idle time with nothing going on, no traffic or anything from your scan tool, and then key cycle back on, and all of a sudden that check engine light's gone now. I've had so many technicians across the world message me and say, dude, you just saved my ass because I just got done with this repair. I cleared the codes. I watched your video on why that light wouldn't go away. I did exactly as you said. I unplugged the scan tool. I waited about 30 seconds. I turned the key back on. The check engine light's gone. Sometimes it needs about 30 seconds to a minute of key cycle off with nothing connected to the data port, and that light will clear. So that happens more often than you'd think.
Okay.
I picked that up from, if Joe's watching right now, it's one of my coworkers years ago. I ran into that problem, and I just got done doing some kind of brake. It was like an ABS, HCU install, and then reprogramming everything and bled everything, cleared all the codes and stuff. And then right when I was done, I'm going to go turn the key on. As soon as I cleared, it said, you know how it says turn the key off now? And then I turned the key off.
Mm-hmm.
And I unplugged my tool when I was done, turned the key back on, light was still there. I'm like, what the heck is this? Turn the key back off, turn it back on, light was still there. Hooked back up to the scan tool again, clear codes, even though I couldn't find any codes, light was still there. I went over to my coworker and I was like, what the hell is going on with this thing? you've worked on more of these than me. I'm new to this, whatever particular thing it was. And he said, Rich, go over there and turn the key off and unplug the scan tool. Walk away, go take a piss, go drink water or something. Go get your next vehicle and pull it in your other stall. Come back and turn that key back on about 30 seconds to a minute later, and the light will be gone. And sure enough, I come back and I was like, you son of a gun. Sometimes that's all it needs. There's really nothing wrong with the system. It just needs to see a certain amount of key cycle off in order for it to clear.
Super weird. I experienced the same things myself. I did a repair. What did I do? I did something to a 2020. Go to start it up. AC doesn't work. I didn't even work on the AC. I didn't even. I don't even know. I'm like, what the hell the heck? Like,
Yeah.
took it out and drove it, and I wasn't even paying attention. Came back in, shut it off. Had to get something else, and now the AC's working. I'm like, what just happened here?
It just
You know?
happened with trans guy.
You had that with that one SNS we installed.
Yeah.
That just happened to the trans guy today. He just got done putting in a 6F35 and he was like, I didn't even touch the AC. Why is the AC not even working now? I just put the trans and everything in. There's no codes for the AC or anything. I'm going to shut it off overnight and then come back in the morning and see if it works. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I remember that happening to me in the past before. And I remembered kind of like our situation where we talk about these things. And I was like, we're not the only techs this has happened to. It's like techs that I talk to as well. The same thing has happened to them before.
This guy has got a good question about old wide tails of airbags going off or strut springs killing people. Strut springs, yeah, if you're not doing that correctly. As far as the airbags, I mean, you to do that, you got to be shorting two things together on the airbag, and especially with the battery connected. But I mean, I don't hear about it. I've never heard it in my career, per se. But we have somebody over the pond, which is in tomorrow. We have somebody from the future asking anybody on the panel, have we ever had a crash while testing a customer's car? UK watcher here. Actually, I did. And I think I talked about this a long time ago on the live stream, was podcast, but I was driving a 2004-5-ish Taurus. Okay. And picture yourself sitting in the curb lane and you're about to turn right. And, you know, cars are itching up, you know, as traffic clear as one goes. You know, I'm looking at the cars coming, and peripherally, I see this car edge forward, and I look, and he didn't go forward far as I thought he did, and I hit a Honda S2000. Ooh. Of all things. Of all things. Of all things. Oh.
I mean, I've hit a turkey.
Luckily, the guy was cool. I was testing the car I had at the time. PDS pulled up and was, you know, kind of between the seats on my lap. And I mean, I was totally at fault, but the guy was actually one of the local rival schools' principals. And he literally was totally cool. The cop that wound up coming, he had him as a principal, and I mean, it couldn't have been a better circumstance to have hit somebody while on a road test. But fortunately for the Taurus, if you saw the Honda S2000, this was back when we didn't have ways to take pictures with cell phones. Can you remember a day that was like? Yeah,
Yeah.
It was back then. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the Taurus. I was dumbfounded, but this S2000, I took out the trunk lid, cracked the rear bumper. I don't know. I think that was about it. But I was, oh man, I felt like shit.
I've never been in an accident in a customer's vehicle. Never.
I pulled a brand new 2006 Corvette up onto a parking curb once. Yeah, the front just sat so low, I didn't even think, and I I took such good care of this thing.
Oh,
I mean, it was a
man.
brand new vet, and I'm like, okay, you know, I'm like 21, 22 or something at the time. And I get all done and I go to park the thing and I'm like, everything is good. I made it out of the shop. There's no fingerprints. I don't smell bad. I'm not sweating in the guy's car. I mean, this thing was mint. It was like its first oil change outside the dealership, and right up on the curb. I mean, it wasn't horrible. I just scratched the bottom of the bumper, but that was a big deal. And it cost us $600. I remember it was like 650 from the body shop. Yep.
Transporter, the GT350, the transporter pulled one off the truck and ripped the whole underskirt off of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
we just
remember.
had
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I remember when the 6.7s came out, there was a big thing with the transporters putting the hooks on the back part of the frame, like right before, or like right around where the front part of the leaf spring shackle. Well, there's a sticker on there that says "Do not hook" or "No hook." Do not hook, I think maybe. And the def line was right there, and they put these hooks on and the chain, and they cinched it down to the frame, and it sliced the def line. So I remember it was like 3 or 4 of them that came in when these first were starting to come out, and there was a SSM coming out. If you had, I think it was a def line heater code to check this spot. I'm like, no way, dude. Things.
We just had a hundred and what are the GT 500s, like 150, $160,000 cars or something like that.
Oh yeah.
We just had it was called the golden ticket GT 500 is what they kept calling it, because it was the rare color combo package that we just had at the dealership. And some guy down in Texas or something like that paid cash for this thing. And I was up on the showroom floor whenever the sale and everything was finalized, and they were trying to figure out transporter stuff and all that. And I'm standing up there and I said, hey, look, when I worked at the Ford dealer down south, they were going to pull a GT350 just out the front door, just right out the front door, because somebody bought it from like Nebraska or something like that. And they barely rubbed the bottom of the seal plate leaving the dealership, just trying to get it out the door to put it on the lot so the transporter can come pick it up. And they actually broke the lower valance on the thing with just that little small seal plate. That was enough to break the valance. And I said, look, I've learned from this in the past, because that was an expensive fix. When you go to pull that GT500 out of the sale or the floor, make sure the valance or nothing's on there, and make sure when it goes on the transporter, if it goes on the right transporter, certain transporters cannot transport these cars. They have to be set up a specific way, or you will not be able to tow this vehicle. A lot of guys will order custom hotshot transporting or something like that to do it, that have lower profile trailers, or they're more experienced with it. So the transporter got it on, but when he got it off down in Texas where this guy was at, he ripped, and the valance was not on it. It was the standard upper part of the bumper, but because of how he pulled it off and didn't have experience with this car, he cracked the whole entire front, upper, lower valance of this thing, the chin spoiler or whatever on it, and did like almost $3,000 worth of damage just on that piece of plastic alone.
Oof.
And that's not just the part sitting in the parts room either.
Yeah.
Guys, we've reached another continent. They're watching us in Asia right now.
Hello in Asia.
Yeah. Hi, Asia.
Asia.
Hello. You just said something and it triggered something I was going to ask you.
You know what? I've never even damaged a customer's vehicle. The only 2 times that I've damaged something on a customer's vehicle, I ended up paying for and fixing within the time that they expected to get it back anyway. On a Super Duty, Aaron, I told you, I think briefly about this, and this is like right after we first met. It was my first fuel system that I worked on in the Super Duty, and it was the return lines. You know, that the plastic little connector, the connectors that go on the fuel injectors, and they kind of just clip onto it all the way around, and it goes up over the valley to the other side and stuff as the return lines. And I was being a little too hard on that fuel filter. Right when that SSM or something came out right after it, it said, be very careful when you're unplugging the fuel lines and stuff at that upper fuel filter, because you'll crack the end of that thing. And then they came out with the sleeve that whenever you change the fuel filter, you update it with the robust
collar.
sleeve.
Yep.
They didn't have any of that at the time when I first did it. I think it was right when it was all starting to come out. I was being too aggressive with that fitting on the fuel filter. And when I went to go yank that thing off of there because it was being stubborn, I cracked the end of it. Like, oh, what am I going to do? And they're like, yeah, it's not easy for us to get this right now because of how many people are breaking it. I had to wait like a couple days. They ended up emergency shipping it in, and I was able to snake that thing through there and get everything clipped back in. So that was the first thing I broke. The second thing I broke was on a Lincoln with like a 2-liter EcoBoost, and it's that stupid plastic coolant line that goes from the coolant reservoir, and then it kind of snakes around next to the engine that goes to the front. Anthony, you might know more about this because I don't think Aaron works on a lot of small stuff, right? Yeah, it's the one that's got the quick wing tabs that you got to push really hard on, and it's got like an O-ring, and you got to pull it out of the reservoir, and it gets stuck in there, and it's that thin like 1/4-inch line that goes up to the front of the radiator and then crosses over and then goes down to the reservoir. Yeah, I snapped that line, and I snapped it in like 3 or 4 pieces because when I got mad and broke the first piece, I yanked on it because I was mad and not paying attention, and I snapped it in 2 other pieces as well, and I was like, you stupid. And I had to end up, the dealership ate both of those at the time, but that's the only 2 times that I've ever damaged anything on a customer's car, and it was while doing repairs. So it was, I guess, forgiven because of the circumstances, but I'm terrified of working on customers' cars and doing anything to them, man. I'm terrified when I go on test drives. Not terrified, but I'm always like, you see me when I'm pulling out of my parking spots when I'm live. Like if I set my phone down, I'm like rear view, side, rear view, side, backup camera, and I'm looking around the road all the time. And then I'll turn the live off when I actually go for my test drive. And I'm like, man, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
The worst. Go ahead, Anthony.
Oh, I was gonna say it was I never messed up a customer's car or hit anything, but I watched another tech pulled in a brand new Mustang to PDI it. This is the 15 Mustang when it came out, the S550, and another technician was working on a 14 F-150 that had the ball on the tow hitch.
Yeah.
Mustang was coming in to turn left into his bay. He was backing the F-150 out and backed it right into the front of the Mustang.
Oh,
My parts guy was like, you know, we don't have that part back here, right? And if Robbie Calder's still in the chat, he was my service manager at the time. He was not happy about that. It was the same guy that dropped the F-150 off the lift. So
wow.
yeah, that was an expensive part too. It didn't do anything to the F-150.
When I first started, I was working in Sheboygan, and I was out test driving I think it was like a 12 or an 11 Fusion, the older body style.
Yeah.
And I had stopped. I went to go get up to speed because there was a tire vibration at 55. I go across the stop sign, and there's like big like cattails on each side of me on this road, and 4 damn turkeys fly out of the cattails and land right in front of the damn car. I plow one of them. He goes rolling. He gets back up and walks away. I'm like, you son of a bitch. And he broke the light out of the Fusion, but that was it. The customer had a hell of a laugh because he was with me.
We call them cattails. We call them wild corn dogs.
But the worst one I've seen was we were doing an airbag recall on a Ford GT and the 06 GTs. And this kid was doing this recall. He took this car out 5 times for a test drive.
Oh, wow.
And the 5th time he got sideways and hit a curb and knocked out 4 tires and rims. Luckily, he didn't hit the telephone pole.
Last chat, we were talking about somebody had asked, what if a customer comes in with a vibration at high speed? And Rich, you talking about you did it, you know, just that one time or whatever. But I had to do with a Mustang that he had a vibration. So I took it for a drive, 60, 65 miles an hour. I didn't feel anything. And I brought it back, and he said, yeah, I got a vibration at 120. I was like, dude, where are you doing 120 at? He said, All American Freeway, which that runs through town and goes all the way into Fort Bragg. And the speed limit is 60. I said, dude, I'm not taking your car 120 miles an hour. You're just going to have to do 119. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. And
yeah.
I got in trouble for that, but I'm not taking your Mustang at 120 miles an hour.
yeah, dude, forget that.
We had the last one that I want to tell them all, but this is the worst accident that I've ever seen. I've told Aaron about this, but I haven't talked about this online yet. It's old news. Nobody's going to get in trouble for it. It's long gone, but it was a brand new F-150 with the stickers still in the window right off the truck. The porter goes to pull it in. He's not paying attention to anything else that's going on. He pulls it so close to the yellow post, the caution post coming into the shop. He doesn't care. He runs right into the yellow post. Starts at the fender on the passenger front fender on the passenger side, runs into the post, goes right into the garage channel for the door to roll up. Mind you, these are big industrial doors, so he starts there and rips the metal from the front fender through the passenger door into the rear door, and then finally stops. Doesn't tell anybody about what's going on. Ends up pulling the vehicle right back out of the shop while all this is going on. Pulls it in the back, stalls out for about 15 minutes because he's scared of what just happened. And then says, you know what? I'm going to go pull it up front on the lawn for the display for everybody to see right in front of the dealership.
What?
And then he drives the F-150 away from everybody where nobody else can see it, but everybody on the road can see it, and drives onto the entrance for the grass, drives over into the grass. There's a red fire hydrant in front of the dealership. And he goes to pull around the red fire hydrant and angle it on an angle to match the truck that's just to the left of it, and runs right into the fire hydrant and rips the door open at a lower spot
Get
from the
the
front of the
fuck outta here.
passenger door all the way into the rear door, and then backs it up, centers it, pulls it back forward, gets out of the truck, goes and puts the keys in key track and says, "Hey, I'm done. Truck
Wow.
detailed, baby."
What'd you do?
Wow.
$22,000 worth of damage, and had to wait 2 months to even get parts because they were not available.
That's freaking awful.
Yeah.
I did watch a quick lane guy pull a King Ranch into his bay. It was the first one on the right when you pull in, and he hit the tire. And instead of stopping, he's like, well, maybe it was just something I ran over. Yeah, it was the lift post that you ran over. Popped the tire, kept going, smacked the mirror on the post, and ripped the mirror off of it. And that was the 360 camera. So he had to pay for a tire and a camera of the mirror. And it's like,
Those
dude,
cameras
like,
and those mirrors are expensive.
Oh
yeah,
my
it was
god.
like $800 or $900 or something like
Well,
that.
now they're like $1,700.
Yeah, this was in
The Super Duty ones are.
16, 17, something like that. Like
You gotta
dude,
watch
didn't think
Quick
to
Lane.
Stop when you hear a crunch, man.
You gotta watch the Quick Lane. You gotta watch the guys that are not very experienced, especially pulling in Super Duties that have the big ladder racks on them with ladders that are loaded up and stuff like that, because they'll go to back out. And a lot of times, depending on the dealership and how much pressure is put on the Quick Lane, they're worried about being yelled at or getting the customer out fast enough or something like that. So they'll try to move pretty quick, and they'll stop paying attention to things sometimes. So I'm next to Quick Lane. So every time somebody goes to back out, if it's a utility truck, if it's a Super Duty with some kind of generators in the back, water tanks in the back or something like that, or if it's a big ladder Super Duty of some kind, I'll stop them before they even start moving and say, "No, fucker, I'm going behind you and you're going to watch me." Because we've had too many people go to back out of a stall with a ladder on top of it, and then the trans guy behind us will have an F-150 or 250 or 350 up on a rack doing a trans in it, and you go to back up one of those ladder rack trucks, and where do the feet of those ladders go?
Oh
right
man.
right into the tailgate, and now you got a softball sized nugget in the tailgate. The guy's getting a new tailgate, getting everything painted, it's all ripped open and stuff. You risk pushing the truck off onto the trans guy or who's ever there.
I was just gonna say that.
It's a bad situation, man.
Gotta have a ground guide for that.
Just like in the military, ground guide for everything. As soon as I see them going back out of the stall, hey, stop. Let me get behind you. Let me get behind you. Hey, come on.
You guys beep horn backing out of your stalls and going in and out doors?
Going out, yes. Going in, no, because you can see the whole entire back of the shop coming in.
What about backing out of your stall?
I won't beep. There's always somebody trying to look out for you now because we don't want. So somebody will be behind you saying, "Hey, stop." So somebody's always looking out.
Yeah.
Chan Man, welcome. Been a minute. Darren Davis, I hope you have a great night. I'll be thinking about you.
Oh, isn't that cute?
Um,
Aaron, you don't say that about me.
well, this is one of my customers who's
Well, I'm your
having
customer too.
an operation, and I've been thinking about him. Bubbly.
Well, I hope
This
your
is where it's
operation-
at.
What's his name?
Darren Davis.
Darren, I hope your operation goes well and you heal from whatever you're going through right now, buddy. And we're all pulling for you.
Hell yeah. One of the questions that I am getting asked in the shorts, the small 60-second clips on YouTube, if you guys don't know what those are, and one of them was, what is the temperature you guys start driving away in your truck? Do you get in your truck
Thumbs off idle.
and immediately drive off? Now this is going to be dependent whether or not you have an older power stroke with high pressure oils like molasses ain't going to be moving when it's cold, and that would require a little should say 5-10 minutes of running. What do you guys do? Being a
Yeah,
6.7 owner, guess it doesn't matter. Being a 6.7 owner, if it's frigid, yeah, I usually have it plugged in and I'll let it warm up. But like right now, I mean, I don't wait to, my engine oil temps at a certain temperature or coolants. I just crank it up and let her eat.
I'll let it come off high idle so the engine stabilizes the bingo.
Yeah. 5 seconds of warm up.
I let the glow plugs kick off before I leave.
So it's just pretty quick. You're like, fuck it, send it.
No,
Send it.
it's about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
I
2 minutes
never-
is really.
Mine
tell-
never
I tell
uses
most-
glow plugs until I don't have any. I don't think my glow plugs even come on. I really don't. It's an 07, almost over 200,000. I think I get I get like a couple misfires on startup sometimes, and then it's back to normal, and I kind of roll with it. But yeah, I mean, I've got 5 miles of neighborhood to go through too, so I'm not on the throttle until it's at operating temp, and then I'm at 60 highway speed. So I don't really warm up. But if the high idle comes on and it's cold, frigid outside, 30 degrees, I'll let it run for 5 minutes.
I could feel you on that. I think the cold
Got it.
temperature region fellas would be more apt to letting the vehicle start and run. But for these guys who constantly run around in flip-flops and tank tops and have the AC constantly, yeah, y'all keep your mouth shut.
We're a different breed down here.
Perhaps
Yeah,
you should ride an e-scooter. I actually have been thinking about getting an
Right.
electric scooter. I want to get one for my daughter, and I think it would be kind of cool to get something electric, just as like a toy, as just to,
Dude, the
You know,
guy across the
putter around.
street has a skateboard with a big lithium pack battery underneath it, and he's like
Boosted
off-road
board.
wheeled, and he jumps on that thing and it's like,
Yeah,
I was like,
those things are fast.
"Whoa."
I want to
They're
get
fast.
I want to get a mid drive for my fat bike. They do
Oh,
like 50 miles an hour.
Hold on. I totally forgot. Everybody. Who am I?
Ah,
Who am I? Who am I? Coming soon, everybody. Coming soon. Who am I? Look at that shit matches. Look at that shit. Just look at matches.
Color is
Uh,
perfect. That's
It
pretty
is.
good.
It is. I swear to you, I don't know what video it was, but this mother man, he was in his shop. This shit looked straight gold. I'm like looking at my phone. I'm like, and then he moved, and you can see the light change. Dude, straight gold. It was awesome. It was awesome. Look at that. That's quality. Wait, man, y'all better keep
Superior quality.
to the chat. We got some.
So did you find the person who's rolling around with it on their vehicle already?
Oh,
Oh. Us diesel guys are not getting a break at the pumps. Yeah.
nope.
Do you guys have people asking you or why you don't just buy a Prius or some tiny econo box car instead of driving around in our 6 and 7 liter diesels?
I've
No.
got a hybrid. I'm doing my part to be green.
Which?
It's funny. It costs more to register that damn thing than my truck and my Volkswagen put together. So I mean,
Do you see what's his name? I think that YouTube channel, they're kind of like up and coming, but they've been doing a lot more like in-depth videos with a lot of Ford focus lately. And one of the recent ones that they did was Farley, the CEO of Ford. And they did a segment on him. And they said the demand right now for the Maverick is so freaking high. They have to build an entire new facility that's already underway in like, what is it, Blue Oval City, Tennessee or Kentucky or something like that.
Oh, wow.
It's like
I know people
150 football field size facility. I think it's like 15,000 acres, or I don't know what, somebody can look it up, but they were saying that the demand for the hybrid Maverick is so high right now, even the Maverick in general, the 2-liter EcoBoost, that it's going to be some kind of dedicated facility with a whole new like working force that's going to be running this plant, manufacturing this hybrid, this
Wow.
this Maverick.
I
Wow.
know people that ordered them around July 4th, July 5th won't get theirs until April.
Yeah. Yep.
The hybrid that Ford boss is talking about is in the Maverick, is also, I mean, that same platform would be, I guess it wouldn't be in the Escape, right?
Yeah,
it's
the Escape.
and
Would that be the same
Bronco.
Escape? Yeah.
The
But the one that Cody was talking about is the very first gen one. And
it's a 2.5 liter hybrid as well, right?
yeah, it
It's
would have been in the
2.3.
Escape.
Or 2.3.
2.3 Atkinson.
They say
Atkinson
it's
cycle.
like the most or one of the most reliable hybrids that you can buy.
That thing's a battle tank.
Yeah.
We do nothing but change the oil in it.
Yeah.
You
Like
guys,
literally.
you guys need to check out, what did you just do? He just recently did an install,
Swapped it to these things.
install conversion, I should say, factory oil filter delete conversion addition. Check out his channel, CP's Garage, and he takes you guys through actually adding that on to get rid of that plastic cartridge one and get a good old spin-on oil filter. Definitely.
I rarely work on those. The only thing I had to do to that was dude
That
let it
pump
sit up.
and the fans and the battery. That's about it.
Well, mine was the guy let it sit out back of his house for too long and the battery went dead and it lost all of its assimilation programming with the brake pedal feel and stuff like that. So I had to go back through, put a new battery in it, it had a friction code for the brake coefficient. Am I saying it right, Cody? Like the braking coefficient on how it was detecting. So I had to cut the rotors, put a new set of pads on it, and that was the fix for that, because it's smart enough to detect what it doesn't like to feel. There's too much restriction there when braking. The system knows, it's smart enough to know that something's going on there. And then I had to retrain the brake pedal feel so it was more like a normal brake pedal, because it lost that programming. And then, like you said, it was the fans in the back had the code set for, I don't know if it was like thermal efficiency or something like that, where it did not like what was going on with the fans. And it was just it wasn't even expensive. It was like a $400 or $500 kit. 2 fans came,
Yeah.
all the
Couple of wires.
couple of wires came. I talked to some of the guys in the shop. They were like, we used to do those back in the day. So now you're going to get your cherry popped on this. So you don't have to go through and take that whole case and everything out of there. We're going to tell you the smart way to do it, the safe way to do it without getting yourself hurt. And they walked me through pulling the trim pieces off around the back to a certain extent, and then take 2 plastic tools and kind of
wedge the case up just a hair so you're not bending it, and slide the case behind it that it bolts into very carefully, and install the fans and all that. And I went ahead and updated that little blend door that switches in the back that draws air across all that. I went ahead and updated that to the newest blend door as well while I was there. And that's the only one I've ever worked on that has ever had a problem. I've never worked on one of them for a single issue.
I don't even think ours has had the fan motor update in it yet in the back. It's had the Mets pump update. That's the only warranty history.
Is that
On the
that coolant
vehicle.
pump?
Yep.
Yeah, it's in the front.
Yeah, I heard about that, but I've never, like I said, they don't ever come in with check engine lights on. They don't ever come in with problems. I don't even see them really come in for maintenance. We rarely see them.
They're battle tanks. I mean,
Yeah.
we bought it at 80,000 and it's now almost 200,000 miles on it. We've done tires, struts, and filter changes. That's it.
You know, I got to give it to Ford on that, though. Very rarely do I ever see a major problem with any of their hybrid setups. Like overall, the hybrid setups that they've had, we rarely see them come in with issues. And
Well, I mean, Gen 1 is Toyota. I mean, if you take a Prius one and take it apart and look at the Ford one, it's basically the same thing.
yeah,
It's a Toyota hybrid.
the Fusion hybrids, any of the new, we don't have problems with them. I don't see any issues with them. Even this new one where they were talking about modifying the lower engine cover and putting all the holes and stuff in this, we haven't seen any failures with any of that at all. So I don't even know really what that was about, because it never came of anything at our location. We don't see any customers with any issues.
I mean, the Mach-E's aren't even that bad. I mean, they're having teething problems, but overall, they're not that bad of a car.
Right.
If you're driving around town now,
I'm seeing more and more of them out on the highway all the time now. They're becoming more and more popular. And they're kind of scary looking, because when you're going down the highway, you look at it, you're like, what the fuck is that? And then you get close and you're like, oh, it's a Mach-E. That thing looks bad from far, man. It looks like it's some kind of like, I don't know. It's like some kind of exotic car or something from far away that somebody's tricked out, and you get close to it and you're like, it's a Mach-E.
Just a Mach-E. Well,
Just-
this electric talk. Hey, we gotta save that for another night. We power stroking for life. Gasolines, stay on the back burner. But I'm gonna end it here. I appreciate all you guys.
No. Hey,
Oh.
SSSC.
Oh, SSSC.
Oh,
What is the SSSC, Rich?
So Cody and you could probably explain the actual SSSC. I just call it the Special Claims Department for Ford whenever you get into circumstances where you need approvals on things like today I had utilized SSSC to my advantage, and I went to the other technicians in the shop. A couple days ago, I had a 19S54 come in. If you don't know what that is, it's an HCU check on like the Fusions, the Zephyrs, the MKZ. I think there's a bunch of cars where this recall, the safety recall came out, where they want you to make sure the hydraulic control unit is functioning properly, and it goes through all of the valve actuation. Did the pedal drop during this event? Yes, it did. Did it pump back up? Yes, it did. And it goes to the next valve and the next valve and the next valve. And once everything checks out and clears and you've passed through all this, the next step is then to get out of the vehicle and flush the brake fluid from the system from .3, upgrading it to .4. And then you change the cap out to a .4 cap, so the next person that goes to do a brake service knows that it's been updated with .4 fluid. And as I'm going around the vehicle and I'm doing the procedure and stuff, I get to the passenger front caliper, and the bleeder, without resistance at all, just snaps right off.
Oh.
It was rusted more from the inside than it was on the outside. The outside looked good, but the inside, it was so full of so much rust and stuff. It had been pitted and it ate away that it just snapped off. And then the driver's side did the same thing. So I'm thinking to myself, do I want to spend a half hour, an hour here extracting this, getting new bleeders and stuff like that? Who's going to eat the cost on this? I don't think it's fair to the customer because it was part of the recall. And I'm asking the other guys in the shop, is this customer pay or is this recall? And everybody was like, we don't really know, because they don't have a provision in the recall that you can charge out bleeders or you can charge out calipers in this instant. I don't know that anybody's ever thought of this because we've never tried to get help in this instant when they break. We just ask the customer if they are willing to pay for it, or does the dealership, you know, through talking to the customer, end up eating it because the tech is the one that broke the bleeder. And normally we end up eating it or the customer does agree to pay for it. So I said, you know what, I can't, that's the whole reason why we have this special claims department, this special department through Ford, is when we're in instances like this and you need special approval for things that wasn't the customer's fault. It really wasn't your fault. You were only doing what you were told to do through the recall, and this happened. So I went up to the service writer and I said, we're going to contact SSSC and we're going to put, when we put the VIN in, it's going to pop up as a populated thing that's open on this vehicle. And sure enough, we put the VIN in through the SSSC claim, and it said there are these campaigns open on this vehicle. Which one is pertaining to the issue that you're trying to deal with right now? Sure enough, 19S54 was right there. Click on it. It populated, it dropped it down into the concern area or the campaign that was affiliated with why we were contacting them. And then it said, what parts are you wanting to get claimed or replaced? And then I found out exact pricing, warranty pricing, put front left caliper, front right caliper, how much labor time, exactly what SLTS said. And then got down into the comments section on why you want to do this. And I said, look, while performing the campaign 19S54, as I'm going through bleeding the brakes, the bleeder broke off the passenger side, and then it also broke off the driver's side. And that is part of what we have to do in this campaign. We're requesting that we get approval on Ford's behalf of replacement of the front caliper bracket assembly. And 30 minutes later, came back immediately approved. Done. Taken care of. Not on the customer. Utilize your resources. Realize what power you have. It doesn't always have to go back on the customer. And Ford is more than fair in these situations where they will look at you and say, you know what? That's right. It's not the customer's fault. It's not your fault. These types of things happen. Approved. Get it taken care of.
I bet you a lot of dealers might be scared to do that.
I bet you they are too. But my whole theory is, if I'm not utilizing my resources, I could potentially be creating an environment or a relationship with a customer that may end up being happy with me, and I may not see them again. And it wasn't their fault to begin with. So I'm going to try to do everything I can to keep the money in their pocket, keep the money in the dealership's pocket, and utilize this resource that Ford gives us. It's a wonderful resource. It can be a pain in the butt sometimes. Use your resources. It took 10 minutes to send it through. I got paid warranty time, which was, I'm not happy with, you know, obviously. It sucked. It was 0.5 to change out both front calipers, but I don't care about that. I cared about not charging the customer for $250, $300 worth of calipers. And
Right.
Ford said, approved,
Right.
replace it. Just take care of it for them. Done. And the other guys in the shop were like, what? What? I didn't, yeah. Use your resources.
Absolutely. You'd be surprised. They might say approved.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happened here. And the customer was ecstatic about it. And she said, did you see anything else while you were there? And I said, you know what? I noticed that whoever did the brake job last didn't really tighten the bolts up properly for the slide pins. And they left them kind of loose and they rusted and locked in that spot. And there was a lot of slop in those slide pins that ended up letting water in the threads and then back behind the slide pins, and the upper one was locked up, and it kind of created this pattern of wear on your brake pads that was not even. So here's what I'm willing to do with you. Ford paid for your front calipers and everything, all brand new. You got all brand new fluid. The whole vehicle's working great. The rear brakes and rotors look great. Everything was free and working properly. Would it be fair if I asked for an hour's worth of labor? And I will pull the rotors off. I will cut them fresh because they're still way above spec. And I'll put a new set of Ford brake pads at our cost, not the customer cost, at our cost. And would you be willing to pay for the hour instead of, you know, paying for the full front brake job? And she said, absolutely, honey. I will. I don't.
Absolutely.
Do it. She said, do it. I'm okay with that. I don't want you guys to have to eat that. I was going to take care of it myself and take care of the lady. I was just going to eat the money, or the service department was going to eat the money, but I was honest with her. I was upfront with her. And here's two things that people don't realize what this does. This can be a learning experience for a lot of techs out there, as well as the customer as well. we're willing to go out on a limb for you for one. But if I go out on a limb for you and I put the brake pads on it and I cut the rotors, there's going to be no receipt of that additional work that's been done. You're going to have a receipt on the calipers and the recall, but there's going to be no recollection of those rotors being cut or me paying for those brake pads. So what happens 6 months from now, you get into an issue or something like that, brakes start making noise or whatever it is, you're not going to be able to come back to me and say, hey, well, my brakes are making noise and stuff like this now. Well, all I did was install calipers and stuff. You made it 6 months. I mean, that's not my fault. I mean, 6 months later, it's obviously something else going on with the vehicle. But she paid for that 1 hour labor and paid for those brake pads. So now she has 2 years, 24,000 mile warranty on the stuff that she paid for. She's 100% covered for 2 years or 24,000 miles. So that nice thing that you may have thought you were doing for her to cover for her may not be so nice in the long run, when she could have found out, oh, if I would have paid the $200 for the pads and rotor cut and stuff like that, I could have had 24,000 mile warranty in 2 years. I don't want you to do anything free for me, because I would have been better off by just paying a little bit and participating in this repair. And now I've got a 2 year warranty and 24,000 miles on the work that was done. So now, not only did the recall help out, get all new fluid and stuff in there, make sure that HCU was working properly, Ford kicked in and replaced all new calipers and brackets for the front. And then she paid an hour labor and for the pads. And now this lady's golden for the next 2 years, 24,000 mile warranty. And all she had to do was pay $240.
That's it.
That's it.
That's not a bad deal, man.
Use your
That's really
resources.
not that bad. You might be getting something half price.
Right.
Good to know. And if that doesn't come up at your dealer, tell your service advisor, have you used your resources? He might not know what SSSC is.
Right.
But you might, and you might educate him, as we are educating you guys to be sharp.
Right.
To know. Knowing's half the battle. And if we can help you know, if you know, you know.
Also, the more information a customer gives us, it helps out a lot. Like when Rich had that envelope, everything going on,
Right.
that helps us out a lot.
Boom, boom, boom. All right, fellas, we are out. Thanks for hanging out. Hit the comments, tell us what you think. And if you got time next week, we're going to be here Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll catch you later, everybody. Rayman, Anthony, CP4B, and Sleepy DS, he out. Thanks for hanging out with y'all. See ya.
You guys.